Hi, my name is Moses Bwayo, filmmaker and journalist. I recently made the film Bobby Wine, the People's President, and I'm honored to be moderating this. And thank you so much to our online audience. Thank you for watching this. Um, I The Battle for Laikipia is such a beautiful film. I first saw it at Sundance, and I was blown away by the imagery. And it's an honor to be joined with Pete to be it's an honor to be joined with Pete Murimi and Daphne Matziaraki.
Thank you. Pleasure. Nice to be here. And my name is Pete, and I have no hair, I have glasses, and I have a white shirt.
Thank you, Moses. Thank you, everyone, for joining. My name is Daphne Matziaraki. I am wearing a yellow sweater. I am light skinned with dark brown hair, and I'm sitting in front of a wild kind of textured wall, joining you um, in this panel.
Yeah, and for our low vision attendees, I'm wearing a red cap. I'm black, and behind me there's a window to the right, and I have a beard. Yeah, thank you. And let's start this. And so, Daphne, you started filming in 2017, and how did the story come to you? How did you decide to go to Kenya and say, let me do this?
Yeah. Um, Thank you again, and thank you, IDA, for hosting. Um, of course, I am not Kenyan. I am Greek, but um, I got my first internship at the United Nations Environment Program in Nairobi 20 years ago, exactly 20 years ago, actually. And that's when I first moved to Kenya to work for climate change mitigation issues in Kenya. And it was when the conversation was just starting about climate change. It was not, it was not a wide conversation back then. And that is how I familiarized myself with the issue. I traveled a lot in Kenya. I got an idea that the extended droughts were just starting to become a reality. Back in 2004, there was actually a big drought up in Laikipia in northern Kenya, and there was a violent conflict that had just erupted back then. So I had friends in Nairobi. I had African Kenyan friends. I had white friends that came from settler backgrounds. So I knew that there was a story there, and it was when I knew there was a big relevant story back then. However, I lived in Kenya, I worked in Kenya for many years. I was not working in documentary at all. It stayed in my head after I moved back home. I traveled in Kenya a lot, and I reported. I was working as a journalist. I kept my relationships, my friendships. I always went back for work filming when I got into documentary. And after I finished my first film, um, I met with Roger Ross Williams, and I told him I I I really have this idea. It was in 2017, and I had just gotten a message from a really good friend of mine who said to me, "Hey, look what's happening in Kenya." She pointed me to one of our characters was keeping a blog, an online journal, and she pointed me to the fact that another conflict, violent conflict, had just erupted. It was during the first year of this massive drought. and I knew I had to make this film. I approached, like I said, Roger Ross Williams, and I said to him, I really, really feel that there's a story there. I know Kenya. I understand it. I I know the place, but I'm not Kenyan, and I need help. I know that I cannot tell this story alone. So he pointed me to our producer Tony Kamau, and I linked with Tony. We clicked immediately. She said, "Yes, this is a really important story. Let's do it." So we just got our first grant from the Pulitzer Center, and that was followed by Sundance, and we started filming immediately. Um, Pete was finishing up his other film, I Am Samuel. And, he was in the conversation and really good friends with Tony and Roger from the very beginning. So we were just waiting for him to finish his film to join the team.
Yeah. Pete, would you like to add something?
Yeah, so when Daphne and Tony initially told me about this idea of this film, um, it was something actually really interesting because uh, sometimes you find this story especially, it's really interesting because there are so many issues that intertwine together, and especially it's climate change, but it's not just climate change, the historical land injustice, but also there's inequality. But the thing is, all these big themes are very personal and are very intimate. So to get that opportunity to work on a film um, that has all these issues, but which express themselves in a very intimate, but also in a very raw form, was something that was very attractive to come and join. So when Daphne and Tony talked to me about it, I jumped at it because I could see the potential.
Yeah, the themes that you explore in this are really grand, and I was watching it, and it just reminded me of Kenya had one of the worst colonial histories in East Africa, and like the first 4 minutes of the film are like a great deep dive into history. So would you just uh, a bit more on the themes that you were trying to explore and how the team helped to bring that to life, Pete?
Okay. Um, so what is really interesting, and I'll speak as a Kenyan, sometimes when you learn about history, you learn about it in primary school and then you forget about it. And sometimes you see hints of, especially in Kenya, of colonialism here and there, but we never really confront it in a sense. And the beauty about this film, and also in a good way, like it reminds you where we've come from. It reminds us where we have been, but also it shows the consequences that of that happening now. Um, and it was when we're telling this story, like how diverse the team is. Like me, who's Kenyan, Daphne's from Greece. We had Roger, who's American, and another EP Joff, who's American, but also Soko, who's Kenyan. And I think the diversity of the team, bringing all like their experience, but also in a sense, uh, all our what we call it, our perceptions of the world into the film, I think made this film so much richer. I think if only one person had directed it, and also not having a team behind that are editorially really strong to be advising Daphne and I of what to do, it would not be what it was. So, but for me, it was rewarding in a sense of putting the historical context now, but in a very balanced way, but also with empathy and not because sometimes you do investigations, you're going like, I'm going to basically vilify someone, and that was not our intention at all. Our intention is just to have an honest conversation of what is happening.
So, and to both of you, just as a follow-up to what you said and how you are trying to tell the story of both sides, how did you decide to juxtapose these two so you see, like your character Simon, is dealing with like existential circumstances, right? It's a do or die situation, and equally, the landowners, they have this heritage that they adore and they want to keep. How did you juxtapose these two stories? And yeah.
Yeah, following on what Pete, adding on what Pete was saying, actually, it's like a continuation of our um, thought process, and as in as much as it is. We're talking about issues that concern us all. They're not, the story is taking place in Kenya, but it is so universal. The themes are so universal, not just because of climate change, but because of colonial history. And it is a conversation. It is the elephant in the room. It is a conversation that people don't want to have. It is a difficult conversation. So we all felt the responsibility, to finally be able to, make a film that is going to help people have that conversation. And we thought that the best way to help people have a conversation is to try to understand, you know, uh, try to understand our characters, because try to understand their point of view. Because what we realized, what we noticed while filming, was that these people shared the same amazing, rich, incredible, full of history landscape. They had, they're culturally so different, but they have so much in common. But yet there is one thing that is really prevalent, which is they don't really know each other, they don't understand each other, and there is a lot of fear. um, and so what we try to do is really make a film where we wouldn't manipulate the truth, we wouldn't create a victim and a hero, but we would really try to understand, show the perspective of both sides. And both these peoples are in the forefront of a situation that is really, really difficult. And
Yeah.
I think that you question yourself, what would you do if you were in in their place?
I
So
agree.
yeah.
So since opening at Sundance, how has the film been received from world audiences, and have your participants seen the film, and what's a reaction? Pete? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been really interesting to see how this film basically has been growing. And I think sometimes I think it's like wine. I think the longer it goes, it's getting better and better. And I think people are getting to understand how we were trying to tell this story. Because honestly, I remember at Sundance initially, a lot of people are questioning us, especially, we don't have a villain in our story. Our story is basically we show the situation as it is, and you have to make up your mind what is happening in the situation. And I think there are some audiences who walked up to us and were basically questioning that style of not having a villain. But with time, it's going around the festivals. I've seen actually people are really understanding it more. But in a sense, especially I guess in Europe and in Africa, where there's much more connection to the issues in the film, it's resonating much more. So I could say it's just been getting better and better. And I think the analogy of wine is the right one.
Wonderful. And what has been the reaction from your participants?
Yeah, that has been that has been really interesting. We, we screened the film to our participants just before Sundance, and it was really unexpected. We were very nervous of it, actually, but we had amazing reactions from our participants. They all really appreciated it. They all understood it, and they felt that there was value. They um, they learned things. There were some regrets, but also some reflections, which was amazing. It is true that the film premiered just recently in Nairobi Film Festival, and that created a little bit of anxiety. The film coming to Kenya finally being shared with audiences, I feel that created quite a bit of anxiety among our participants. But I think, like Pete is saying, it really takes a little bit of time. You know, our audiences have only reacted really, really well to the film. So I feel that our participants are also, understanding that the anxieties, is just being really reduced. And I think that everyone is really looking forward to opening up the conversation. Um, we are planning to have an impact campaign starting in Kenya, and hopefully spreading. So I think that our participants are excited to be part of this and be part of the conversation. And I think that they're all seeing the film as a vehicle to to start this conversation, see if there is a way to to figure out if there is a common ground and an understanding.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been lovely speaking to you both. And yeah, do you have anything you would like to add or say that I didn't ask?
No, the thing which I think Daphne had said, but what is interesting about this film, like, yes, it is in Laikipia, but actually, what's happening in Laikipia will happen or is happening in many other places around the world. Because, especially with climate change, resources are getting like less and less and unpredictable, and people are basically scrambling for the same resources everywhere. So, in a sense, this film, either it is a warning of what is to come, or if not, it is just a reminder that we should be much more conscious of what's happening around us and just start thinking about solutions of how we can coexist and share the little that we have much more. So this is like Laikipia, but it could be in any continent right now, anywhere in the world. So
Exactly. And the conversation about, of course, climate change, but also indigenous peoples' heritage, culture, land rights, and how this um, can feed, can pioneer our conversation when we talk about, um, you know, contemporary conservation and environmental protection. I think that it is so relevant, it is so urgent, um, and Laikipia, in Laikipia, the story is not done and sealed in an envelope. The story is unfolding, which is incredible in terms of that there is room for discussion, there is room for amazing change, and incredible things could happen. And we're really hoping that the film sparkles a conversation. And Laikipia could be an example for other places in the world. So we do think it's a really urgent, really, really urgent um, film. and we would love for everyone around the world to watch it. So we're so happy
Thank
about
you.
our festival run, and yeah, for you hosting us.
No, thank you for making such a wonderful film. It's really informative, and it highlights issues that we are all dealing with around the world. That it's very easy to forget, and in like the developed world, it seems so far away, but actually no, it's not, because like yourself, Pete, and Daphne, you've said it's an urgent film. Climate change is real. It's happening. Yeah, asante sana to our audience. Thank you so much. And yeah, it's been great hosting this. Thank you.
Thank you.